Hello. Sorry, 1 second. I just have to figure this out. Okay. Okay. Hello, my name is Emily Weiss. Thank you all for attending my Big Board presentation. This year, for my Big Board, I focused on the topic of divorce and how it impacts children. I wanted to begin by saying that this isn't meant to insult anyone or make anyone feel doomed for their future. All my research is just statistics, and there are many people who defy those statistics that I'll be mentioning. With that being said, I would like to begin by showing you a short video clip that summarizes my research. But before I do, if you don't mind answering the question on the piece of paper in front of you so that we can compare the people in this room kind of to the statistic of America relating to divorce. After you answer it, if you guys could just pass it all to your left, and then I'll collect them. Thank you so much.
Dear Mom and Dad, I know that you are hurting. I'm hurting too. I feel and feed off your tension, fear, and shock. Although I am young and cannot express verbally what is happening in our lives, I'm still feeling the impact. My heart is broken every time I have to give up a parent. My sense of security is lost. Please don't assume that I'm resilient. Please don't assume that my life will be exactly as it was, and that I will continue to feel the same love for both of you. I'm a human being just like you. Like
They called me at like 2 o'clock today.
Sending me the message that winning with each other is more important than my life. I am learning from you that it is better to be right than to be loved. You are teaching me that I came from a person who is unlovable and wrong, and that I am somehow wrong too. When you confide your hurt in my heart, you are storing up adult pain and robbing me of my childhood. You are taking away my belief that love is unconditional and replacing it with a message that tells me to become hard and not to love because I will get hurt and not be able to recover. You may not understand this today, and I am so small that you are not thinking about my future, but you are putting me at a greater risk of getting a divorce myself. At times, you are risking my safety to fill a void in your heart. My safety is your job. Without you and your protection, I am unshielded from the world. This will manifest in irrational fears for me, because I will stay in a state of fight or flight for most of my life. Someday, this initial shock will wear off, but how you choose to parent me through this crisis will never wear off. I will either feel your sense of selflessness, support, protection, or I'll have a scar on my heart with a message that reads, "Good things happen to good people. It must be bad." Thoughtfully, child of divorce.
So my main argument that I'm trying to prove throughout my entire presentation is that although a good number of people in society are deluded in thinking that divorce only places short-term effects on children, the impact that it leaves is much more long-term, and that's for various reasons. Just to take you through the main points that I'll be touching on today, we're going to start with what changes a child's reaction to divorce. Then we're going to kind of focus on the immediate effects of divorce for children, how it impacts relationships, how it changes their future, the opposing argument, and then my service learning project. Before I move forward, I just thought that now would be a good time to share the results that we had of the survey that everyone took. And I don't know what they are because this is an empty classroom, but when I do know what they are, I will let everyone know. Awesome. To start, there are 3 main things that can change the way that a child will react to divorce, and those are age, gender, and mental illnesses. With age, younger children often react to divorce different from someone who's significantly older. Younger kids can't fully comprehend the situation, so they might react with more confusion or frustration, while older children can understand the circumstances and have a period of reflection for them to prepare for their future and cope with the process. Gender also impacts the way a child reacts to divorce. Placing all stereotypes aside, boys tend to release how they are feeling by acting out and becoming aggressive, while girls tend to remain to themselves and keep their feelings inside, which deals with the higher percentage of mental disorders in females. Along with that, though, mental illnesses that were already established often become more severe during a time of divorce. And not only that, but new illnesses can be brought upon for each person due to stress and new life that follows the divorce, or if it's not handled properly for the child. So those are just a few things that change the way that a child will react to divorce. And next, we're focusing on the immediate effects of divorce. And one of the first immediate effects has to do with this chart here on our right. And this is the most immediate one, and it's the drastic decrease in income before divorce and after divorce. And as you can see, there's around a $20,000 decrease immediately following the divorce, and that can place a slew of financial issues on a family. Along with that, the oldest child often has to act as the lost parent role, and they're often expected to take care of the younger children and often emotionally support their parent because their parent is also going through a tough time. This places way too large of an emotional and physical expectation on the child, and it often has the child feel inadequate because they'll never be able to live up to those expectations that either they've placed on themselves or the parents placed on themselves, whether that's subconsciously or consciously. Along with that, relationships diminish because in an intact marriage, the child will see both their parents usually every day, but after a divorce, the parenting time is often split in half or whatever the custody agreement tends to be. Therefore, they don't spend as much time with their parents. Because of this, the relationships that they have established or the relationships that would have been stronger tend to become diminished because that time spent with the parent is very important in establishing relationships and preserving relationships, and that's just lost with the way children are handled in a divorce. Another immediate effect that a child has to go through is the coping process. And just like the different ways children react to divorce, their coping process can also be different depending on age and gender. There are a few things that depending on age and gender. So pretty much like if you're older, you'll have, your coping process will be more internal. And if you're younger, your coping process will probably be external and you'll be frustrated and angry just because of the confusion and you don't really understand what's going on, and that's how you'll cope with it. There are a few things that parents specifically can try to do to minimize these immediate effects. And the two main ones that I found during my research was communication and the level of conflict that parents show to their children. For communication, if the parent allows open communication between them and their children, or allow them to speak to someone that they're comfortable with, say like a teacher or another adult or a counselor or a therapist, someone along those lines, the child will often have a better understanding about the process, and any feelings that they have will be discussed and they won't just be pushed down. Regarding the level of conflict, if parents expose their children to the small fights that happen during court or fight in front of their children, it'll only make the child feel worse. And this can end up having the child blame themselves for the divorce, or it can have the child having mixed feelings about the divorce, and that's never good for the child or the parent. And then the last immediate effect are ones that are much more psychological. They can't really be minimized or fixed, and those have to deal with being overweight or obese and sicknesses. Children of divorce have a 57%. Children of divorce are 57% more likely to be overweight or obese, and this could deal with either the financial struggle that parents often are in after divorce, therefore they can't afford those organic or luxurious healthier foods, or it could deal with the stress levels that they're in that have to kind of they take into consideration. No, don't die. Thank you. But these are just some of the issues, but 57% is a huge percentage, and that just shows that something deeper down happens with divorce. And along with that, there's illnesses, and whether that's because the immune system is lowered because of stress or whatever the case may be. Children of divorce are more likely to be sick, and when they do get sick, they're more likely to stay sicker longer. And that just shows that there are huge psychological issues that happen after divorce. Moving on to relationships. There are three main issues with relationships, and that's the relationships of the parents, the trust issues that these children have, and then just typical friendships. To start with the parents, the graph on the right shows that 90% of homeless and runaway youth, 71% of high school dropouts, and 63% of youth suicides are all children who act on this and they grow up without a father. And so this just kind of shows how important fathers are, and unfortunately in the divorce process, too many times the father gets up and leaves and the mother has full custody, and this can just show how mentally and emotionally and even physically worse the child is because of it. But not only that, even split custody or things of that nature can also have the relationships diminish, as I mentioned earlier. Also, the way that a parent talks about the other parent in front of their children really affects the relationship, because while many people will think that if you talk negatively about your ex-spouse in front of your child, that your child will like you more, but it's actually the opposite, and they tend to shy away from that parent who keeps talking negatively about their other parent. And then trust issues is a huge issue with children of divorce, because they see most likely relationships that has gone bad, and how trusting the family was until the end of the relationship. That doesn't make sense at all, but it just goes to show that they're less trusting after a divorce because they've seen the negative consequences of it, and they don't know if it's as if a friendship or a relationship is as valuable for them to become vulnerable, and they're much less likely to do that, and that didn't make sense either. Lastly, friendships. Those that have been previously established are often called into question to see if it's worth it, because they are less likely to open up and put their trust in people that they don't necessarily think that it's if it's worth it or not. And this will lead to less friendships, and they'll be less likely to open up and make new friends. So those are a lot of relationship issues that I need to figure out because I can't talk. And then lastly, the future, and this is like kind of my main argument, is that they're impacted in the future. And it's not that their life is doomed or that they won't be successful and they'll fail. It's just that people often think that children go through the divorce process with their family and then they move on. And I'm just kind of here to offer a new aspect that they don't necessarily move on and not everything goes back to normal. So to start, we're going to talk about the low economic status, and that has to do with the graph on the earlier slide about how immediately there's that $20,000 decrease because of the split family, and that could put a family into poverty. And then, as we all know, that poverty cycle it's very hard to get out of, so that can in fact keep that child in poverty for the rest of their life as well. So that's huge. Also, children of divorce tend to look at marriage much differently than someone from an intact family would, where it's usually exciting and a happy time. Children of divorce often see it as a very stressful time, a negative time, and they wonder if it's worth it and if they should get married. And too many times, children of divorce decide that marriage just isn't worth the possibility of divorce. Along with that, just like some other things, is the different levels of stress children of divorce have, the lower rankings academically, and then the forgiving. For stress, children of divorce are shown to have higher stress levels, and whether that's because they can't adapt to change as well, or because they are too stressed out at home that any academic stress can just add the pressure on top. But they are shown to have higher stress levels, which can also show that they have lowered immune systems, which can add to the sicknesses and the obesity and the higher percentage of being overweight, as I previously stated. Along with that, they have not as good of a chance to achieve academically as well as some of their classmates, and this could be for various reasons. This could be due to various reasons, such as they don't care about academics, they act out, therefore they don't get a good education, they don't come to school, their parents don't really have too much on their plate to worry about them academically. Whatever it is, their academic rating is much lower than a child from an intact family. And then finally, forgiving, and this might not seem like the biggest issue, but it just kind of proves my point that to say that children of divorce go back to the normal life they lead after a certain amount of time is just wrong, because there was a study done, and it was Stanford students their freshman year. And these students were very well academically, they could handle the stress, they pretty much defied these statistics that they were going to fail academically. And these were children of divorce, and it asked them, how do you feel towards your family, all these things, do you forgive your parents? And this was years and years and years after the divorce, and they still had said, no, I do not forgive my parents, and I don't think I ever can forgive my parents. And that just kind of shows that, yes, you can move on and you can live your life, but things won't go back to the same thing. That was good vocabulary. Lastly, big events are looked at much differently for children of divorce than for intact families. Events such as marriages, that's the same thing as weddings, graduations, weddings, holidays, or even something as small but big as this big board, where it's supposed to be exciting and celebratory and upbeat and happy, can often be nerve-wracking, stressful, and they might not be looking forward to it necessarily because of the idea that both of these parents have to be in the same room together, and it's kind of embarrassing for the child if they can't get along. So events where you're supposed to be excited and happy, the child often is nervous to see how their parents are going to react, and they feel that they have to take care of each of the parent to make sure that they're both happy in the situation. And I have a short clip that goes along with that idea. That didn't show my clip.
And I got smart over the years. I started coming up with ways to avoid situations like this. Thanksgiving, who am I going to spend Thanksgiving with? Well, they think I'm in Honduras building schools with the U.S. CARES program, but little did they know the U.S. CARES program doesn't exist. So,
it sounds real.
Yeah, I got it figured out, but I don't know, this wedding, it's risky. I guess I'm just looking for some advice. I don't know, someone to talk to super quick to figure out how to survive the next few months.
I can absolutely.
That's where I'm supposed to stop and survive the next few months. So as you saw in that video clip, it's actually in the movie his brother who's getting married, and he feels that as the older brother, it's his job to make sure that both the parents are happy, both the parents attend the wedding, and he makes his brother happy. So that shows multiple things that we've been talking about the big events, the stressfulness, the older brother acting as a parent, all those different ideas tied into that one video clip. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the opposing argument, and through my research I kind of found three main opposing arguments that had to do with children of divorce. And those were that there is normality with time, it can lead to better things, and it's better than the fighting. For normality with time, kind of my whole presentation has shown that there really isn't any normality with time, and you might be able to move on and live with it and still live a great life, but you'll never go back to normal as you would have if the parents did not get a divorce. can lead to better things. I didn't really see any situations where they backed up this argument except if it was an abusive relationship between the parents, and that's not exactly the most common relationship that we see in a divorce case. So yes, that might be true, but that's not a very common case of divorce. And lastly, better than the fighting. And this was a huge argument, and I hear it today still. But the issue with that is that the fighting doesn't go away once you get a divorce. If you have children, and in the cases that I'm studying, they all do because I'm focusing on the children, the parents do not often get, they still hate each other.
They don't often get along when
They
they have to
don't-
come
right.
together with each other.
They still have to encounter each other during the child's
Child's whole entire life.
and the rest of their life. So the fighting doesn't go away. It can sometimes increase actually because there are more things to fight about. There's court issues, custody battles, people things. Okay, there's just more issues, and I'll tell you about them at the real thing. So these three arguments are extremely invalid. And lastly, my service learning project. For my service learning project, I had a difficult time coming up with something to do that can benefit the children because that's like the main thing that I wanted to focus on. So I worked with Judge Karen McDonald, and I provided a pamphlet to all the people who attended her court due to divorce-related issues. Judge Karen McDonald is a circuit court judge at the 48th District Court, and her specialty is family law, so she sees a lot of divorce-related issues. And pretty much what I provided them was a pamphlet that gave resources that they can look up if they need help, like psychologists and psychiatrists, lines that have been highly recommended in Oakland County, pretty much just what they can do to best benefit their child right now, what they should be talking to their child about, things of that nature, just to let them know that these are the things that researchers, because I'm still just a high school student, so these are the things that researchers say to best help them out. And then along with that, I worked with PPO cases, which are personal protection orders, and they work kind of like a restraining order in the case that you come in and you say your case about why you need a PPO, and then the person sitting with me and I would discuss to see if it should go to court, if it was even a worthy case that the judge would see. So I kind of spoke to them also, got their side, kind of learned about their life as they're going through the divorce. And the majority of PPO cases are divorce-related people. So that was my presentation. And that is what I found out this year. I did.
I don't know.
Do you guys have any questions? Okay, let's see what I got. 23, shit. Shoot.